since the announcement of the democratic self-rule administrations of the three cantons of Rojava, in which all components are taking part, the Rojava politicians are promoting the emerged democratic model to the regional and Western countries. In this regard, Sina Mohammed, the co-chair of People's Council of West Kurdistan, visited Norway and held a series of meetings with Norwegian politicians and with the Kurdish community. To shed more light on Sina Mohammed's visit to Norway, the political activist Rewend Haco will join us now live from Norway. Welcome, Rewend, to our show. Tell us more about Sina Mohammed's visit to Norway and the sites she met.
Well, ever since the establishment of the three autonomous cantons was declared, there has been a diplomatic effort on part of leading Kurdish politicians to gain international recognition and support to establish relations, but also to discuss the latest developments on the ground, especially the war taking place between the YPG on the one hand and radical Al-Qaeda groups on the other. In this context, Sina Mohammed, co-chair of the People's Council in Western Kurdistan, recently made a trip to Norway, where she met with representatives from the major political party in Norway, which of course is the Labour Party. More specifically, she met with the Norwegian MP Jan Døren and the Labour Party's international secretary, Mari Vest. Mrs. Mohammed also met with local Kurdish communities in Norway, in two cities, in Oslo, the capital, and the city of Stavanger. In these cities, she held a number of seminars, gave talks. She also met with a number of journalists, giving interviews and updating about the latest developments.
Mm-hmm. The establishment of the democratic self-rule administrations of Rojava were on the top of the discussions. What has been said exactly in this regard, and what were the Norwegian politicians' reactions to the administrations?
Well, obviously, the declaration of the three cantons was the major topic during these meetings. Mm-hmm. But it's important to bear in mind that there was an outcry and express of fear coming from parts of the Syrian opposition that the Kurds were on their way to separation. So this step was seen as a threat by some parts of the opposition. So a major part of Mrs. Mohammed's talk was to downplay these fears and to in fact show that despite the declaration of the autonomous cantons, the Kurdish areas form a part of the Syrian territory and will form a part of the Syrian territory in the future. However, Mrs. Mohammed explained that firstly, the new administration is in fact transitional, it's not permanent. And secondly, that it has been established in order to tackle urgent needs and demands of the people. As we sure know, since the civil war in Syria broke out, there has been a major administrational vacuum in the Kurdish areas. And this newly established administration has been put in place to fill that vacuum. And moreover, Mrs. Mohammed explained that the new administration represents all segments of the Syrian society, mm-hmm. and that the rights of all peoples are guaranteed. In fact, they are enshrined in the new constitution, which was recently published. With regards to the reception to Sina Mohammed's meeting, it was met with a lot of interest and enthusiasm by the Norwegian representatives. They were actually positively surprised by the political prosperity that has been taking place in the Kurdish areas during a time where the country is being torn to shreds by the war. Mm-hmm. Mrs. Mohammed also pointed out that the Kurds are fighting the so-called pronounced enemy of the West, which of course is the Al-Qaeda. And she pointed out that their efforts should be recognized in this regard. And finally, there was also talk of sending a Norwegian delegation to the three autonomous cantons, consisting of members of parliament and the Norwegian media, so that they could see the latest developments for themselves.
Mm-hmm. The Kurdish initiative Zagros platform is organizing today a seminar in Stockholm, Sweden. Who are the speakers at the seminar, and what will be discussed, Rewend?
Well, it's true. The seminar is actually taking place as we speak, and the major topic of the seminar will, of course, be the declaration of the new autonomous regions. But it's also more generally about the war in Syria. And the speakers, it is some part of the Swedish media, some journalists, some politicians, but it's also attended by the co-chair of the Democratic Union Party, Salah Muslim.
Let's move on to the Norwegian media coverage on Rojava. Tell us more about how the Norwegian media outlets covered the developments going on in Rojava, and in particular the announcement of the administrations.
Well, as I said, Mrs. Sina Mohammed met with a number of journalists in Norway. But as of now, there has not been any publications. But as far as we know, there should be some media coverage in the coming days.
Rewend Haco, political activist, you've been with us from Norway. Thank you very much for the update.